Hi, I'm Steve, back here again with Dr. Nario of Biointegrative Health Center. Today we're going to talk about nutrition. So first, Doctor, I want to ask you about what are the different types of diets that people might consider. There's a virus going around, there's a flu season every year, but what kind of diets might people consider or nutritional habits would be good in this environment?
Good question, Steve. So there are so many diets that I've been talking to patients about lately. So I will give you the more common diets that we've been talking about and they've been asking questions about. So number one would be paleo diet. So this is what we call the caveman diet. Remember the times when we were in the prehistoric era? We get a club, hit a dinosaur in the head. That's lunch for us. So meaning we're eating more of meat, fish, vegetables, and none of the new age type of food choices. So when I say that, I'm pertaining to fruits, dairy, grains, and processed food. Another one would be keto diet. A keto diet is high fat, moderate in protein, and also low in carbohydrates. So we have this diet for the purpose of we burn fat for energy rather than carbohydrates. So you would encounter this most of the time with cancer patients or weightlifters. Another one would be blood type diet. So blood type diet is, let me break it down for you. Type A is what we call agrarian, or basically same as vegetarian. So more plants and no red meat at all. Type B is actually the nomad, meaning you can eat plants and also meats. But there's an exception to the conversation here. When you say they can't eat any meat, it's all about chicken and pork. None of that. AB is a combination of the agrarian and the nomad. And type O is the hunter. So this is the high protein type of diet where you eat majority of meat, fish, poultry, and it's almost resembling the paleo diet. And lastly would be the plant-based diet. So this is straight up no animal sources, and choices would be fruits, vegetables, nuts, legumes, and variations of this would be the vegan diet or being a vegetarian.
Okay, so yeah, I've really kind of looked at all these different blood type diets, and we were talking before we started this that I'm an AB, but my body likes the O diet, which is interesting. So I guess everyone's different. My body likes the O, even though I'm not O. So
Yeah.
in this, what we're in now with the virus and uh, people being much more aware of germs, what type of diet do you think would be good to? And I know not every diet is good for everybody, but in the circumstance that we're in, people are much more aware of, shaking hands, washing their hands. I think that's a good thing for the next 1, 2, 5, 10 years, whatever. People are going to be more cautious about um, keeping their hands clean and trying to avoid viruses and germs. So, what do you suggest?
So you're, I want to take note of the statement that you said that your diet is different from everybody else. So diet is individualized. It may work for you, but not for other people. So you really have to find your niche. So one diet doesn't work for everybody. So right now, as we know this certain pandemic season, as we call it, there's a meat shortage in our industry. Tyson Foods, Smithfields, JBS, Purdue Farms, every factory is actually declaring a spread of the infection in their workers. So that's why they're closing these factories for us not to get enough ample supply of the meats that we need. Thus, we have scarcity. And the scarcity or shortage leads to doubling of prices for these meat sources. So not only will you see elbowing people in the grocery aisles for that last roll of toilet paper or that last bottle of mineral water, but now they're also going to be running through the meat section, grabbing that last piece of drumstick. So that's the thing. The effect of this would be now in favor to the plant-based food companies, such as Impossible Foods or Beyond Meat. And right now, their sales are doubling just because of this. So plant-based diet by default will be our diets right now just because of the low supply that we have in the market.
You know, I've noticed that you can get a lot of protein from things like, you know, chickpea and stuff that you can really get a lot of protein. Now,
Mhm.
I've heard that a lot of these, you know, what do they call them? The meats that are the burgers that are made out of plants. I've heard, now, correct me if I'm wrong, this is just something I heard, maybe it's a rumor, that some of these plant-based, you know, burgers aren't safe because of the pesticides and all the things that they're in some of these plants. Is there any truth to that?
There's truth behind that. So the thing here is now you question what are the sources or where are the sources of these products that are plant-based coming from? So you cannot deny the fact that GMO sources are included in the components of these plant-based products, such as corn and soy. And also, yeah, when you talk about plant-based vegetables, you always think about pesticides, herbicides, contamination of these sources from where you got it from. So that is correct.
Well, yeah, that's interesting. It's quite complicated. If you're going to eat healthy, you really got to pay attention. And I've met some of the people at your clinic, and some of the extremes they go to just about what they put in their mouth is pretty intense. So, are there different types of plant-based diets? And what are some of the benefits of a plant-based diet? Again, I know everybody's not the same, but are there different ones that are plant-based, and is there an advantage over a plant-based diet maybe for one person as opposed to someone who's a carnivore who just likes to eat meat?
Right, right. So let me break that question down. So first, let me just define to you the different types of plant-based diets that are out there. So number one would be the vegan diet. The vegan diet is purely no animal meat at all, and also consider the byproducts such as dairy and eggs. So the next one would be vegetarian. Vegetarian is less restricted than a vegan diet. So you have a variation where you will always hear this term as lacto-ovo vegetarian, meaning they can eat lacto, which is dairy, ovo, and eggs. And you can have another sub classification, such as ovo vegetarian, who are just eating eggs, and lacto, who are just eating dairy products. But these vegetarians that are out there, they're pretty conscious about the hidden dairy and also the hidden eggs, wherein you find this in mayonnaise. They have eggs in it, or baked goods with the hidden dairy or hidden milk. On pescatarian also is another classification wherein you eat plants with seafood. So you're talking about fish, shellfish, or even bottom dwellers. So
Hmm.
vegan basically eating like a cow, except for the mooing. That's a pretty basic concept to remember. So you're talking about the advantages of being on a plant-based diet. So other than you having a bikini body due to a slimmer figure, so there are so many advantages to it. Number one, on my end, on my list, is it's the only diet that actually can be backed up by clinical studies to have proven to reverse cancer or even prevent cancer, even cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, and even hypertension. Number two, it's economical. People now are starting to grow their own gardens in their backyard. So you can bring them from your backyard to your plate, thus less expensive. And number three, there is a fiber deficiency going on in the country.
Hmm.
So by you eating more plants, you are actually tending to this deficiency and cleaning your gut a little better. And selection. People think that you're stuck eating 24/7, eating plants, salads, fruits. Not really. You have nuts, grains, legumes, seeds, spices to choose from for your variation.
No, the next question, I think I know the answer to it, but I'm going to ask it anyway because I think it would surprise a lot of people out there listening to this. Is there a fear that someone on a plant-based diet might not get enough protein?
So that's a pretty good question. I hear that a lot from my patients. The most common patients that heard that from are from the bodybuilders. So the concern of losing muscle when you eat plant-based versus animal-based is there. But To honestly answer that question, there are medical evidences that would show us that plant-based protein versus animal-based protein are just equal. But let's stick to the stereotype. Let's stick to the common belief that there are higher amounts of amino acids or protein in animal versus plant. So how do you catch up with that when you're on a plant-based diet? You eat more in quantity and you supplement with amino acids and protein just to catch up with the content of the animal protein versus the plant-based proteins.
That's interesting because, you know, when I start, I use a plant-based protein drink, which my body likes. But I'm looking at first I was like, okay, wait a minute. They're saying that the breakdown of all these branched chain amino acids, I believe, are what your muscles are made of. And it's a protein chain. So I'm going, well, wait a minute. How do you get that out of seaweed? But I guess you can do it. So it's interesting to me how much of the branched chain aminos we can actually get from a plant-based diet. You really can get a lot. Now, as far as supplementation, and my last question, supplementing, I know that I take branched chain aminos and amino acid supplements. It's just kind of it's a powder that you mix and you stir it up and you drink it. Is that what you're recommending for someone who's on a plant-based diet, who maybe they don't want to eat, you know, any beef? Maybe they don't want to eat any chicken. Is that what
Right.
you're recommending? What other supplements other than that would you recommend?
So yeah, you're right about that because with the branch chains amino acids, you really have to be aware of this. And I'll explain that a little bit more. But as we spoke about diets, supplementation is the same. One supplementation is different from every person. So you just can't use a specific uniform type of protocol for everybody because everybody has a different need for something. And in our clinic, how we assess this is we combine so many aspects to find out what your body needs, such as laboratory testing, medical history, and even our physical examination. So the thing here is what I can impart to our audience right now is a general recommendation. So let's start with your question about the amino acids. So amino acids, as we call it, we want essentials, essential amino acids. Essential meaning our bodies cannot create these amino acids, and we need to get it from supplements or diet. And when we talked about, you spoke about animal sources, the animal sources amino acids has higher amounts than plant protein. And the thing here is when you mentioned about BCAAs, these are the ones that are more abundant in animal protein. That's why when you're on a plant-based diet, you want to make sure you have a supplement that has BCAAs or amino acids in it just to get that right amount for your body to be healthy. So talking about the other supplements that you should be on when you're on a plant-based diet, or even when you're just a vegetarian, is carnitine. So carnitine is very abundant in animal sources. So we create our own carnitine. It comes from our liver, from our kidneys, and we use this for fat burning for our energy. And a good dose or recommendation for patients to just maintain their cardiovascular health would be around 2 grams a day. Another one would be B12. B12, again, very prominent in animal sources. It
Hmm.
lowers the homocysteine levels, which, when it's high in our blood, it can actually cause cardiovascular diseases. So a good dose for this would be 500 micrograms a day. And other ones would be like iron. So iron, we hear about this when somebody has anemia. So meat, again, is high in iron. But again, I caution patients, you should only take this when you are proven to be low on blood tests. And the highest dose that you can safely take is around 45 milligrams a day. And lastly, a more important one is vitamin D. Vitamin D is the bone vitamin. So there are two types of vitamin Ds. D3, which is cholecalciferol, and D2, which is ergocalciferol. D3 is animal-based. D2 is plant-based. So the thing that we want is D3 for the reason that D3 maintains your blood levels longer compared to D2. So recommendation for this dose for the dosing would be 600 to 2,000 international units daily. So as you can see, medical supervision is needed when you're doing supplementation. For example, would be vitamin D. If you take too much of that, you're prone to have stones, kidney stones. Or iron, if you take too much iron, you can form free radicals in your system that will destroy your organs from the inside. So don't get medical advice from infomercials or home TV shopping networks. Go to a professional medical doctor and you will be assured of supplement safety.
Okay, well, thank you, doctor. There's so much that I want to ask, in upcoming interviews with you. We're going to be doing this every week, and there's so many other things that I can think of to ask you. I think one session would be a great topic on, you kind of hit on it with medical professionals, is what's the difference between what you do at your clinic and what, general practitioners do in their clinics. And that would be really something interesting to me. So maybe we can talk about that next time. But we thank you. It's Dr. Nario, Biointegrative Health, and we hope that you all stay healthy and safe.
Thanks, Steve.